29th of March 2020. A Turkish cargo ship is intercepted off the coast of Libya by the French frigate Provence. It is transporting much-needed anti-aircraft missiles for the Government of National Accord in Tripoli. 12 days earlier, the European Council had reached an agreement to enforce the arms embargo on Libya, in force since 2016. 2 days later, the 31st of March, Operation Irini will finally begin. Hello, I'm your host Pietro, and this is the Libyan Civil War.
نعلن الجهاد والنفير والتعبئة الشاملة وعلى الشعب التركي الصديق الذي تربطنا به أواصر الأخوة في الإسلام
Part 1. The War Bulletin. Before we talk about Operation Irini, our topic of the week, I want to talk about the major developments this week in Libya. On Thursday the 7th, the mayor of Sharif, Hassan Ali al-Gaddafi, sent armed men to shut down the man-made river, causing water shortages in the Tripoli area and central Libya for 3 million people. That is still going on as I record this episode. Man-made river is the largest irrigation project in the world, built under the regime of Muammar Gaddafi and completed in 1996. It is a project so grand that the colonel called it the eighth wonder of the world. It provides for 70% of the water needs of the whole country. This unprecedented move was in response to the Government of National Accord arresting the brother of the mayor of Sharif. Al-Gaddafi claims that the arrest of his brother is just the last act of discrimination against his Magara tribe, and also lamented that Al-Sarraj cut funding to his municipality amid the coronavirus epidemic. Critics of Haftar are claiming that this is a political terror move, as al-Gaddafi was elected as a GNA-affiliated mayor and was sworn in Tripoli, but eventually switched his alliance to Haftar along with his whole tribe, and the city of Sharif is currently under LNA control. It is not clear to this day if this was orchestrated by the LNA or is simply a power play from the mayor in response to discrimination of his tribe. Notwithstanding the epidemic and the war that are currently going on, this shortage of water could possibly create a humanitarian tragedy of extreme proportion, and tribal leaders from the whole country have stepped in to resolve the issue. But as I said, to this day, the blockade is still in effect. As we have seen in northern Syria, control of water supply has become, and we could say it always was, a critical element of warfare. Another significant development of the war in this week is the airstrike carried out by the Government of National Accord on the city of Bani Walid. Bani Walid is the logistical hub of the Libyan National Army that links the eastern part of Libya to the Western Operative Theater of the LNA. The Government of National Accord, through the spokesman of the Volcano of Rage operation, declared this week that the whole area of Bani Walid, central Libya and western Libya is now officially a military zone, and that every convoy that passes through the area has to ask permission for the GNA. If there were convoys that passed through the area without asking for such approval, the retaliation could be airstrikes and searches and attacks, as we have seen this week. Many airstrikes have been carried out in the city this week, and as is normal in a modern war, information here gets a little blurry, so bear with me for a second. The GNA is claiming that only fuel trucks were hit. while sources close to the LNA claim that food shipments and medicine were hit. Medicines that would go to the response of coronavirus. And such, if this was the case, it would be a clear humanitarian violation and a war crime. Now, personally, from all the videos I've seen on Twitter, I've only seen fuel trucks burning. I didn't see any image or any video of medicines and food burning or trucks that were hit, only fuel tanks. Actually, I got also into a little bit of an argument. I got called a retard. But this is all I've seen. There are also people claiming that these fuel trucks are for civilian vehicles, which is of course possible and probably true, but it can be denied that fuel is an important resource in war, and its military relevance can't be discounted in this case. So let's say that the information war still rages on, and I can't say with 100% confidence what was it and why, but I have to say it again, I've only seen videos of fuel trucks burning and not anything else. This is my personal opinion, so take this with a grain of salt. Not only Beni Walid was hit by airstrikes this week. Turkish drones that support the operation of the Government of National Accord have been carrying airstrikes on Al-Watiya air base all week. Al-Watiya air base is an air base controlled by the LNA in eastern Libya that has been under constant attack by the GNA for about 2 weeks, but despite casualties and damage to the airstrip, the airbase still hasn't been captured by the Government of National Accord. Also, another Turkish airstrike hit a cargo plane of the Libyan National Army near Tarhuna. I'm not sure if the plane was destroyed completely, and again, I'm not sure what it was carrying. The LNA is claiming that it was supplies for civilians, while the GNA is claiming that it was military supplies. As always in these cases, the truth is difficult to discover. Turkish airstrikes have also been carried out in the Al-Weshka region and in Abu Ghraib, which is the western front of the Libyan civil war, the front that has seen the most casualties in the last days. However, the GNA is not the only side that is on the offensive. On Sunday, the airport of the GNA-controlled port city of Zuara has been bombed heavily by the LNA, and the forces of Haftar keep trying to advance in the south of the capital city of Tripoli, reportedly capturing 23 prisoners this week, 15 Syrians and 8 Libyan. So, despite the recent change in air superiority thanks to intervention of Turkey and their drones, the LNA still hasn't given up on the offensive, and are still trying to reach the center of Tripoli and encroach upon the city. Part 2. Operation Irini. As I said, Operation Irini officially began on the 31st of March. But what is Operation Irini? To answer that question, first we gotta look at what came before. On April 2015, the European Union launched Operation Sophia, which is a naval operation established in the Central Med to combat migrant trafficking. The operation was set to operate in 3 phases. The first one was naval patrol of the Mediterranean Sea and rescue of stranded migrant boats. The second part would have been locating the hubs from which the traffickers based in Libya were operating from, and the third phase was going to be eliminating these trafficker gangs with both naval, aerial and terrestrial assets. Although the operation never moved past stage 1 and largely derailed in 2019 because of opposition from right-wing parties in Italy, before being officially shut down with the commencement of Operation Irini. Another precursor of the operation that we're going to talk about is the arms embargo on Libya. So a total arms embargo was established with the Libyan political agreement of 2016, which I talked about in the last episode, to facilitate a peaceful transition for the country and deter from a military one. But this agreement has never been really enforced. So, in February 2020, the European Council, the representatives of the member states of the European Union, decided for a new naval mission in the Mediterranean Sea to uphold this arms embargo, using aerial, satellite, and maritime assets. Also, in the stated goal of the operation is to contribute to the disruption of the business model of human smuggling and trafficking networks through information gathering and patrolling by planes, contributing to the capacity building and training of the Libyan Coast Guard and Navy, that is, of the Government of National Accord recognized by the UN and the European Union, and to monitor and gather information on illicit exports from Libya of petroleum, crude oil, and refined petroleum products. The operation will be led by Rear Admiral Fabio Agostini, and its headquarters, as with Operation Sophia, will be located in Rome. As I say this, it is interesting to look at the power dynamics between the major European players in the Libyan conflict to understand how this operation came to be and how it will work. As I said, the major players in the conflict are by far Italy and France, but also Greece, and we will get to that in a second. Let's talk about France first. France supports Haftar and the Libyan National Army. So how is it going to accomplish that with a mission that theoretically should enforce an arms embargo on the whole of Libya? Well, that is pretty simple. Arms shipments by sea mainly arrive to the Government of National Accord from Turkey. The Libyan National Army is mainly supplied by land and by air from Egypt and from the United Arab Emirates. So this is a clear blow to the supply capability of the government in Tripoli and suits France's geopolitical ambition in the region. But why, then, did Italy, which supports openly the Government of National Accord, accept such a mission? Well, the compromise, I think, was moving the bulk of the migrant crisis to the eastern Mediterranean from the central Mediterranean, in which it affects Italy the most. So the issue that Italy had with Operation Sophia was that basically the mission intercepted a lot of migrant ships that were trying to reach Europe, and in saving them, humanitarian law made the ships that intercepted such migrants to transfer them automatically to the nearby safest port. Since the European Union didn't recognize Libya or Tunisia as a safe port, these ships automatically disembarked in Italy, causing a sizable migrant influx into the country. It is not a coincidence, then, that Operation Irini will mainly operate in the eastern Mediterranean, and also that Greece will be taking responsibility and will be giving a safe port to whoever will be saved at sea in the eastern Mediterranean. It will be interesting to see, though, if Italy remains content with that, or if it will try to act covertly to still support the Government of National Accord by perhaps turning a blind eye to shipments of arms to the Government of National Accord. Now let's talk about Greece. After all, Irini is a Greek word. And why did Greece offer ports for migrants, even with their current economical and migrant problems? In my opinion, this is a retaliatory move against Ankara. Many of you may be familiar with what happened at the Turkish-Greek border recently. Turkey flooded the border with migrants to pressure the European Union into supporting Turkey in the Syrian conflict. And also, obviously, I shouldn't mention the millenarian hostility between the two countries that goes so far back to the times of the Byzantine Empire and the Ottoman Empire and the independence of Greece. The two countries have always been at odds, with territorial disputes over Cyprus, over islands in the Aegean Sea, with open war breaking out 2 times in the last century. So, what were the major effects of this operation in this week that it went on? There are 2 things that I want to mention for now, other than obviously the case that I mentioned in the introduction of this episode. On the 7th of April, a Turkish Ilyushin cargo plane flow from Ankara to Tripoli, possibly carrying an arms shipment. This could be seen as a way to circumvent Operation Irini after the seizure from the French frigate on the 29th of April. As I already said many times, the LNA already is supplied by air with hundreds of flights from the UAE to Libya and to Egypt. So Ankara is adapting its strategy to the recent developments in the sea. It remains to be seen, though, if the capacity of these air shipments will be sufficient to Ankara's aims. Because unlike the LNA, the GNA doesn't have really airports that are far from the front lines of the war. All its airports are theoretically vulnerable to airstrikes or artillery strikes, and their airstrips can be incapacitated with a comparatively smaller effort. So we will have to see how Turkey copes with this new problem. Another thing that I want to mention, which is, I want to make it clear, completely unconfirmed to me to this point, is that on the 8th, a suspect ship with a Panamanian flag reportedly coming from Egypt arrived in Benghazi with 40 containers. The GNA has claimed that these containers carried military weapons and, of course, in a sense, denounced the ineffectiveness and possible bias of Operation Irini. I want to stress it. I have absolutely no proof that this ship contained arms, and actually it seems a bit unrealistic to me that Egypt would send weapons to Libya by sea. But if true, it really could highlight a bias in Operation Irini in favor of the LNA, and if this bias proves true, we will have to see how Italy and the other countries that support the GNA, such as Germany, react to this. My personal opinion on the whole operation, I would certainly have to say that it is an operation that, even if not overtly, is covertly biased towards the GNA, because the realities of how the both armies supply themselves can't be ignored. The GNA supplies almost exclusively from the sea, and the LNA supplies almost exclusively from the air and from land, which isn't covered by Operation Irini. So this operation certainly is biased towards the GNA, and in a sense, Italy has been co-opted by shifting the migrant problem from the central Mediterranean to the eastern Mediterranean. However, maybe it is a bit too early to foresee completely how this operation will impact the war, because we are still in its infancy, and we will have to see. We will have to see if this really takes a dent into the military capabilities of the government of national accord. So before I end this episode, let me say this. I've been watching the statistics of how my last and the first episode went, and I noticed that some people from Libya listen to the episode, which makes me very happy. And also I want to tell them, those that live in Libya and are listening to this podcast, but this invite is open to everyone. If you want to write to me, or maybe even send me a voice message and tell me your perspective on the war, your experience, maybe personal experience you had of this conflict, or you have questions which you want me to address in the podcast, feel free to write to me. You can find my Twitter at geopoliticsita. You can also find a link to my Twitter profile on my website at lcw.buzzsprout.com. And I hope that you're all well during these quarantine times. I wish you a good week and see you next time.